Okay, today I want to share a list with you I made of 10 basketball parallels that I hunt for in lots and value boxes. Now, that might be lots that I buy online on eBay, so you have to look carefully through the pictures and kind of be able to point out subtle differences, or it might be value boxes that I'm searching through at shows. So you have to know these little differences pretty quick, and these are ones that a lot of dealers either don't want to take the time to look for or they're not aware of them. So these little tricks here, I feel like they'll help you find some cards that might help you advance your collection in whatever way you're looking for. Now, I will say this is not necessarily a list of parallels that is going to make you a lot of money. So if that's your goal, that's really not the only reason I'm putting this together, because in some cases I'm just looking for parallels for, team collectors or player collectors. They might be hard to find. It doesn't necessarily mean they're valuable. So you'll have to weigh whether or not, if you find one of these, if it's worth picking up, right? If it's a dime or a quarter box, probably everything on this list I would grab. If it's a dollar box, there are still some that I wouldn't. If it's a $5 box, you have to be very careful, and so on and so on. So just keep that in mind. This is not a definitive list of if you find it, you should get it. These are just some things that I personally hunt for in boxes. Now, this first one, though, that I'm going to talk about, if I found one of these in a dollar box, I'm definitely grabbing it. A $5 box, I'm grabbing any player, and then I would have to consider it from there on out. But it's 1996-97 Fleer Metal Precious Metals. I would say I would definitely even grab some of these if they're a little more expensive. You'll just have to look at comps. But everyone is probably familiar with that 96-97 Fleer Metal design, where it looks like kind of steel on the right side, and it's got the player's name going from bottom to top. And it's got your Kobe rookies, your Iverson rookies, and so forth. Now, on the regular base version of this card, on the left side of the card behind the player, there are, not only is there that metal look, but there are different colors mixed in. Now, the precious metal version of this is all silver in that background. And if you see one in person, they should pop, especially if you're able to compare it to base cards from the same set. It's pretty obvious then, and you could say that for a lot of these parallels, but this one especially, once you see one, you're going to know for sure, and it'll be a lot easier to spot them in the future. So this is something that even if you're not looking in value boxes, if you see one of these in a display case at a show, pay close attention to it, because then it'll give you an idea of what you might look for some of the lesser players as well. Okay, another little more subtle parallel from that year is the 1996-97 Skybox Premium Star Rubies. And this is the earlier iteration of them that definitely isn't as obvious as some of the numbered ones from later on. These are not numbered. In fact, you can see the regular version just has that regular foil on it that says Skybox Premium. It's like a rectangle that will be somewhere on that card, and then the player's name is in that same foil. Well, the parallel, it's Star Rubies, so it is a red foil parallel. And these aren't necessarily super valuable. It all just depends on the player. Like, for instance, I found some of these in a $5 box recently, and I left them because it just depends on the player. But I saw a Sean Kemp in there. I grabbed that. To me, I think that's a $30 or a $40 card. So it all just depends on where you're finding it and who it is. But these are still very collectible and desirable in certain sections of the hobby. Okay, next up, from the year after that, we have the 97-98 O-Pee-Chee parallel. And this is a parallel of the base 1997-98 top set, but these were only found in Canadian packs. And I believe they were 1 in every 3 Canadian packs. So they've kind of spread out over the years. And yes, you can find them in the United States, but they are tricky and they are hard to find. So there are player collectors out there that are still looking for them. I would say if you find any of these in a dollar box, definitely grab them. Even a $5 box, there are certain players, common players, I would probably grab. And then, of course, it just goes from there. But the only major difference in the top left corner is you'll see on the regular version, there's the Topps logo. Well, on this parallel, it says O-Pee-Chee instead. So that's something to watch out for, and something that, if you've got a big stack of 97-98 Topps, that's something that I'm looking for as I'm flipping through real quick. The next one is another thing that I'm looking for in another portion of the card, and that is the 97-98 Topps minted in Springfield parallel. And That one will have the regular Topps logo on it, just like the base card, but somewhere on the bottom portion where the nameplate is, it's going to have that Basketball Hall of Fame emblem on there. And I've heard different people talk about, are there different stamps of these? Is there a bronze version? Is there a gold version? And so forth. There's no proof of that necessarily, although Jake Roy on his channel has talked about some of that stuff. But either way, even if it is just the regular minted in Springfield stamp, I found a bunch of these in a dime box recently, which I thought was a great find. And they're not super valuable. I think the Penny Hardaway even that I found was worth $5, but I do try and grab these if they're cheap. And it's a nice little parallel to grab if I'm able to. All right, let's move forward a couple of years here. The next parallel that I would look for, the one I've got listed here is 1999-2000 Topps MVP promotion, but they actually ran these parallels for 3 different years. So it would be 1999, 2000, and 2001. And these look very similar, almost identical to the base cards from that year, except they have a foil stamp on them, and a pretty big one too, that says Topps MVP promotion. Now, don't confuse that with Topps tip-off. I know people have done that before, and it's pretty easy. I mean, it literally says Topps MVP promotion. And then if there is any doubt, just flip the card over on the back, because it'll be like a redemption form that you would have to fill out. These, if you find them, well, the basketball ones now, if you find them in a dollar box, I would definitely grab them. I found an Allen Iverson recently. I think I paid $15 for it. But some of those stars, people are catching on. Some of those stars can go for a pretty high amount. So they're hard to find. Player collectors are still looking for them. And I would just keep an eye out for those. So like I said, that's 3 years. That's 1999, 2000, and 2001 Topps. All right, we're going to skip forward a few more years, and we've got an upper deck parallel here that I want to talk about. This is one of my favorite parallels just because it's my favorite era of cards. And that's 2004, 2005 upper deck UD Immaculate. And it's kind of funny now that Panini has a brand called Immaculate, but this was a very tough parallel from the 2000s, and it was only in this specific year here, 2004. So you've got the regular version of the card, which doesn't have any special markings on it. And the only thing that differentiates the parallel from the regular version is just right above that nameplate where it has the player's name and the city and the team. It will say UD Immaculate, and it's like a silver foil. It's not huge. It's kind of in the middle of the card. So if you're flipping through cards really quick, you can't just see it on the edge. You have to look through them very carefully. There's not a definitive print run on these. I've heard people say definitely lower than 25. I've heard people say probably lower than 10. I know I personally have 3 Ron Artests, so they are out there. They all 3 came up from the same seller, though. So somebody probably spent a lot of time looking for those. And that's another one that, hey, the player collectors, if they know they're out there and they're hunting for those most likely. Can't tell you how rare they are. I'm not sure, but they don't come around too often. All right, we're going to skip forward quite a few years here, and we're going to go to 2012, another one of my favorite years in the hobbies. A lot of new releases there. And this one is 2012-2013 Panini Brilliance. It's the Starburst parallel. So these cards in general had a kind of a silver foil finish on the bottom, and then the top portion of the card, the top half, was the player's picture. The only big difference here is, it's called Starburst, and it's like they're kind of etched lines that look like almost like sunshine rays, or I guess it's called a starburst. So a starburst is what you could say. And a lot of people miss out on these. I know I grabbed a Jimmy Butler rookie at one point, the Starburst parallel, for $2. I think I moved it on ComC for 20 or 30. If you're finding just common players, they're really not worth anything. So you have to be very careful here. But there might be some people looking for these. They still seem a little bit more common than some of the other parallels that I've talked about on this video so far. Okay, next up, we've got 2012-2013 Panini, the retail Silver Knight. So this was back when there was just a regular low-end set called Panini, kind of like what Topps used to do. Panini was trying to do their version of it. And the difference here lies in the design at the bottom of the card, which is great because if you're looking through a stack of these, you can kind of differentiate between them pretty quick. So both versions, the regular and the Silver Knight Parallel, will have silver foil on them. So you can't just go by the foil. You have to look in the middle, in between the foil pieces that say 2012 and 2013. If it just says Panini in big block letters, then it's the regular version. If it says Panini in block letters, but it also has that knight with the long lance that's kind of surrounding that word, then that's your parallel. And your gold knight will have that as well, but the gold knight will have the gold foil. So you just want to look for that difference in the middle. So if I'm flipping through a stack real quick, I just look at the bottom middle of the cards and then I go from there. Okay, very similar to that is the same product, but the next year. We had 2013, 2014 Panini Red Knights, and this was another retail-only parallel. And this one, the foil is different and the bottom middle of the card is different. So it is, as you would imagine, the regular version has that silver foil. The Red Knights version has, guess what? That red foil. So you can see that where it has the numbers 13 and the numbers 14, but it also has that Panini Knight with the lance that I talked about on the previous iteration. And these red ones are way more rare than the silver ones that I talked about from the year before. Like I said, it was a retail only. Probably a lot of them, I don't know, they got thrown away. 2013 was just a rough year for cards. And you'll see the big name players come up. So I feel like I see the Giannis and the LeBron. Those hit auction, especially during the boom, quite a bit. But some of the lesser players, I cannot find those. And I found a Gerald Wallace in a lot sometime in the last year or two. So that was a pretty exciting find for me. And I know some people, they saw that in the video and they saw my level of excitement and they're like, really, it's just Gerald Wallace. But to me, to be able to find one of those in the wild was pretty exciting because I just don't see those. I don't think I've ever found a Red Knight in a box at a show. I've seen the big names in the display cases, but definitely not in a box. So to get one in a lot or to find one in a box is pretty exciting for me. And that's really another reason that I'm looking for these parallels, is because a lot of this is about the hunt for me. Okay, final one on the list here is another one from 2013, and that is the NBA Hoops Artist Proof. And you're probably looking at that thinking, that doesn't seem like it's that rare of a card. And the truth of the matter is, the reason I put this on here is a lot of the player collectors are still looking for their players. And it's funny, when they eventually do show up, they'll win them for like $3 or $4 or $5 or $6. Not a lot of money. It's not that they're worth a lot. It's just a matter of tracking them down. So if I ever see any of the 2013, especially, not necessarily the other years, but the 2013, for whatever reason, those seemed pretty tough to find. If I ever see those in boxes, especially dollar boxes, quarter boxes, whatever, I will grab those in the off chance that a player collector is looking for one of those. Okay, so there you have it, 1996 to 2013. Those are some of the parallels that I'm looking for when I'm digging. And I'm curious if you guys do want a part 2 of this segment at some point, 2014 to 2022, which parallels are you out there? Which parallels are you looking for? Let me know. Drop me a message. Leave me a comment. And otherwise, I appreciate you watching. Remember, there are new episodes of the audio podcast that come out every Thursday. And thanks for watching.